I brought two pieces. The first is a pretty short story, and the next is also a flash fiction. The short story is called Spare Change. I didn't think England would be this chilly, my mom said. She pulled her coat around her tighter, struggling to keep up. Chicago was a long way away. I'd been living in Canterbury for 3 months, studying and trying to understand my place in the world. The more I traveled, the more I realized everywhere was different, and everywhere was exactly the same. England lacked the sub-zero, bitter dryness of Chicago winter, but it had its own form of misery, its humidity. The air was thick and wet, an icy fog blanketing the country. My lungs wheezed. Well, tonight's the first night we've dropped below freezing, so that's been nice. I dragged my mom's suitcase behind me, struggling with its weight as it wobbled over cobblestones. She lagged a few paces behind me, exhausted from traveling. The bus that drove her from Heathrow to Canterbury sputtered back to life and left the station behind us. Canterbury's so beautiful, I said. I can't wait to show you. We walked down a ramp by the roundabout. Oh, this is weird, my mom's voice echoed as we walked under the underpass. When the ramp flattened, we turned into the tunnel that passed beneath the street. It was warmer there and drier. Yellow light shone from overhead, and the wind whistled over both openings of the concrete tunnel. The walls of the underpass were painted as a mural. The southernmost side showed early British society, Christian saints, bloodletting, flagellants. As the tunnel moved north, the mural became more modern. Smiling Britons of every shape and size and color waved with Union Jacks in front of the Big Ben. In the center of the tunnel, a man in a dirty tan jacket huddled on a flattened piece of cardboard. His back rested against the midpoint between past and present. A Bible lay open on the ground in front of him. I glanced back at my mother. This would be her first view of Canterbury. Not the breathtaking cathedral or millennium-old ruins, but a homeless man begging. The first time I saw a homeless man, I was so innocent. I saw him in the city, somewhere between LaSalle Street Station and the Field Museum. Got change, sir? He held out a torn McDonald's cup with a few pennies at the bottom. What few teeth he had were crooked and black, even darker than his skin. He smelled like smoke and something I was too young and sheltered to recognize. Next to him was a cardboard sign, "Hungry, please help." My mom gripped my hand tighter as we walked by. "Andrea," she whispered, jerking my hand. "Andrea, don't stare. Keep walking." She rushed forward, pulling me with her. "Ma'am, you got some spare change?" "Excuse me, ma'am?" My mom's grip cut off the circulation to my fingers. "No, I only have my card." She kept her head down as she tugged me away. I craned my head back to look at him. "I'm sorry." He looked up, locked his sad, yellowing eyes on mine. "It's okay, dear." When we were a block away, my mom slowed her pace. "Andrea, never do that again. Do you understand me? We don't talk to strangers. We don't even look at them." But he could have been dangerous. I dragged my feet and stared at the ground. The sidewalk was cracked, spotted with a smattering of used-up chewing gum and the occasional loose dime that no one was desperate enough to pick up. Eventually, my mom's grip loosened, and I could tell she wasn't mad at me anymore. "Why is he sitting on the ground?" "Who?" "That guy who wanted money." She was quiet for a little while, and then she answered. Her voice was soft, almost reluctant. "He's homeless. He lives on the street." I scrunched up my eyebrows. "Why?" I don't know, he's poor." I tried to wrap my mind around it, the idea of homelessness. The man didn't look happy, he looked sick. He was asking for help. "Well, why didn't we give him somewhere to live?" I asked. My mom sighed, her hand tightening around mine again. "It's not that easy. We can't take in anyone we see on the streets. But Auntie Tricia lets us live in her house." "That's different." I dragged my feet and kicked a bottle cap across the sidewalk. My chest began to hurt. "What's wrong?" My mom knelt in front of me. We didn't give him money." My lower lip trembled. I tried to take a deep breath, but my chest shuddered. "He needs somewhere to live." My mom held me. "I know," she said. "He's gonna be okay. I just don't have money to spare, Pumpkin." When we got to the museum, my mom paid in cash with exact change. That night I hardly slept. I hated myself for lying in a soft, warm bed while people starved in alleys. Hours went by. My aunt and uncle went to sleep, then my mother. And I laid there staring at the ceiling, wondering why God would give me a bed and not the man on the street. I sat up and bowed my head. I prayed that God would make me homeless. I begged him to take everyone off the streets and give them homes. I would take their place. I don't deserve to live here, I said, and they don't deserve to be hungry. I prayed for almost an hour, but the next morning I woke up in my own bed. I still hated myself, and the homeless were still hungry. God gave up on them. He ignored me. Eventually, I guess I gave up on him too. I swore I'd be better when I grew up. I'd donate to charity, I'd build shelters, I would save the people that God couldn't save. Even if it meant living on the streets myself, I would do everything in my power to do the right thing. Spare change? The man in the underpass asked. He held out his hand, palm up. I'm sorry, man. My voice was just as quiet as his. All I've got is my card. I've heard that one before, he spat on the ground. He didn't look at me. He just flipped the page in his Bible and pulled his coat tighter around him. I kept my head down until I was out of the underpass. It's so weird to see homeless people here, my mom said when we were out of the tunnel. I thought England took better care of their poor people. Yeah, I said, my voice still low. Anyway, what were you saying? At dinner that night, I paid an exact change. Wonderful mother is here. That was a creative nonfiction piece that was highly embellished. She's a great person. So this next piece is a stream of conscious experimental flash fiction. I've decided to quit being anything but me. I forfeit that forward-fitting, half-wit winning, forever fretting me. I here relinquish all ego, and in relinquishing, at last I gain the sixth sense of uncensored self that keeps me up at night scrawling sentences on a blank page. Further proof that I do or don't exist. But even if I don't, then I must. Because if something doesn't, then it still must be in order to not. Do I dare pause my hands' incessant scrawling when my cogs spin at their ocean-churning pace? No time to think, no time to look back. The sweet darkened waves inhale me and impale me on my incessantly scrambling sword. I cannot structure this unfundamentalist conjecture into some Eiffel Tower of upcycled prose, no matter how hard I try. Some deeds just simply can't be done. I dare not glance into the past because those forlorn words forewarn my question incessant. Do I even exist? I write because I hold a pen, and my pen moves 1 million neuron firings per second, so perhaps I exist only within the movements of my pen. Or perhaps I exist only within the confines of my paper. But surely as every million firings die, my immediate lifetime is ticked away with the metronomical moving of the never-stopping clock. Live in the moment, they tell me. Don't worry about what-ifs. But in each moment we die, reborn into a new second, not quite the same person as in the last. And the clock's hand chimes one death after another in those ever-spinning faces that watch me at night and perturb my long-warned and injured sleep. Then comes morning, when I shall decide to reside and continue another 86,400 deaths in a one-day span, as the face, ever intruding, daunts me from its perch upon the wall. Ever watchingly, it haunts me with its revolutions, repeating the hours of my life and the lives I've long lived past. Is it so strange that my introspective ailment should be meticulously maintained by this ticking, when in each moment before it, another moment must live, and the moment antecedent has barely been born? In each thundering second of my life's procession, this tick-tocking petulance brings my pedantic sense of reference to a fade. With each new life I die, a mere child who cannot hold her own, an infant sentenced to death after only one breath. I'm hardly here, I'm rarely there, and I'm barely self-aware. I'm spiraling on this Mobius strip of self-loathing, so busy and dizzy, I can't tell where I'm going. They tell me history is a cycle. I guess this is true of personal lives. I find myself time and again passing the same surroundings, listening to the same soundings, and thinking the same thoughts rebounding in my ways. I try to keep it straight. Not that I've ever gone straight in my life, but I try. They say to move forward along the path, as though the path moves forward and not backwards or sideways or through another dimension. And that is why every time I try to move, I find myself where I started. People don't change. Lives don't rearrange. I cannot deconstruct this fact any more than I can detach the atoms from my heart. I'm forever apart, not a part of a whole, but wholly falling apart. I've got it down to an art by now. Keep my head up and my lips sealed. No one needs to know how I feel. I paint myself a pretty little portrait of sanity, scrape myself into a sculpture of propriety, and fall into disarray, only in secret when the gallery is closed. Then, every day I wake, and the cycle recurs like the sun. I hang myself back on the wall, perfectly painted and masked by secrets. A true illusionist can make a helix look straight, and no one will need to know about the spiral.